Hey guys, it's Miss Insko-Grady here, and we're going to start our last unit that will take us for the next 3 weeks into the end of the school year over the novel The Secret Life of Bees by Sue Monk Kidd. So today you're going to listen to me talk a little bit about the novel, take some notes, and you will submit your notes at the end of the video, okay? Okay, so our author is Sue Monk Kidd. A few things about her. That she was born in Georgia in 1948. She didn't begin writing, though, until she was the age of 30, and mostly she wrote nonfiction at the time. Her first novel, being fiction, is The Secret Life of Bees, which was written in 2002. Her second novel, The Mermaid Chair, in 2005. She lives now in Southwest Florida with her husband, Sandy, and a black lab named Lily. That name will become important because Lily is the protagonist of our novel. Okay, the setting for our novel is set in the summer of 1964 in South Carolina, right outside of a town called Sylvan. Some historical context that's going to be important, and you should know most of this from U.S. history, but we're going to go through a timeline anyway. August of 1963, we have the March on Washington and Dr. King's very famous I Have a Dream speech. And both of these are widely given credit for drumming up support for all the events that came after. So really being the turning point in the civil rights movement. South Carolina in 1964, however, was a time of civil unrest. So there were lots of racial divides and lots of painful reminders of the cruelty of racism. And people are still combating those Jim Crow laws of the South. So those laws that separated white people from black people and made black citizens appear to be less than the white citizens. We also have the Civil Rights Act of 1964 that's going to be mentioned in our novel. And that's when racial segregation was officially outlawed in schools, public places, and employment. And even though the Civil Rights Act was signed in 1964, it wouldn't be until many years later that all of these places labeled would finally be desegregated. We also have the National Voting Rights Act of 1965, which outlawed any discriminatory voting practices. So we take for granted that we can go to the polls right now and we show our license and we get to vote. The one thing that maybe keeps us from being able to vote is not having a picture ID or being a felon. But other than that, we have the right to vote. At this time, they could challenge you to be able to sign your signature. And if they felt like your signature wasn't clear enough, then they wouldn't allow you to vote. They'd find all kinds of reasons specifically to discriminate against African Americans, and mostly in the South, from being able to vote. So here are just some pictures from the Jim Crow South. And remember, we have colored and white only water fountains. And we see the same in bathrooms, in restaurants, this idea that we should not share common spaces if we were not of the same race. Here's a segregated schoolhouse. And notice that here's a movie theater. And this one is specifically for people of color, that they would cater to people of color. If there was a movie theater that allowed both black and white people to attend, oftentimes the white people got to sit on the floor. The black people were forced to sit in the balcony. Notice even the soda machines were segregated. White customers only were allowed to buy soda from this machine. And public transportation, we all know, very famous case of Rosa Parks not wanting to give up her seat to a white patron on the bus. So again, white patrons sit in the front, colored patrons sit in the rear. And then other races were also discriminated against at this time, which sometimes we forget that Jim Crow played into anyone who was non-white. And so notice there is no beer to be sold to anyone who is Indian. Okay, so an epigraph. This is going to be really important. So an epigraph is the motto or quotation used at the beginning of each of our chapters. And I know it says see handout, but ignore that. So every chapter in this novel is going to begin with an epigraph about bees. And what is being said about bees is going to tie into Lily's life. An allusion, another literary term we need to know, is a reference to a person, place, poem, book, or event, which is not part of the story that the author expects the reader will recognize. In this case, we're going to see some religious allusions, so some allusions to religious tales or to other novels, okay? So they could be historical, religious, cultural, literary. Here's an example. This is not in the novel, but it says, "But of course, my luck with this guy sucks. So he turns his head and sees me and wolf smiles, showing, oh, Granny, what big teeth you have." Obviously, that is an allusion to the big bad wolf in Little Red Riding Hood. Okay, here are our characters. This is where we need to start writing. Lily Owens, as I told you, is our protagonist, and she's 14 years old. And to be clear, Lily is white. Sometimes people read this and they glance over that portion of it. Rosaline is her nanny and caretaker. She's kind of her mother figure. Rosaline is a Black woman. T. Ray Owens is Lily's father, but you'll notice Lily does not call him dad. Deborah Owens was Lily's mother, who died when she was very young. And then you have the Boatwright sisters, August, May, and June. They are 3 Black women who live in the town that Lily is going to travel to in search of some information about her mother, and they're going to take her in. And then you have Zachary Taylor, who is Lily's love interest. And spoiler, he's a Black boy. So our themes here are coming of age, so this idea of self-discovery, maturity, growing up, the irrationality of racism. So irrational means without reason, logic, or fairness. And we know that racism in general tends to be irrational, and people with racist ideology tend to be irrational. The power of a female community. Remember, I told you that Lily's mother died when she was young, and she's going to be searching for that mother figure. The importance of storytelling, and you're going to see Lily likes to write. And then we have a couple of motifs, and a motif is just a reoccurring image or reference in the novel. One is going to be bees, and the other is going to be mothers. Okay, a couple symbols I want you to be on the lookout for are beehives, photographs, the Black Mary. Ooh, let me go back so you can write. Okay, so coming of age, a novel or other work of literature in which the main character or characters grow, mature, or understand the world in adult terms. So Lily is very young. Well, she's a teenager, a young teenager in this novel, and she's going to have to grow up very quickly. So that's why it would be coming of age. Okay, that is the end of our notes, guys. I hope you enjoy reading The Secret Life of Bees. Tomorrow, you will follow the link, or today if you want to, and go ahead and start reading. If you have any questions, please contact me, and make sure you're looking at the classwork tab in Google Classroom. Okay, if you have any missing work, please get it turned in and send me a message. I miss you guys. Bye.
Did you finish your video?
God, I don't know. Where'd it go?